Welcome to a brief history of Skye Rovers Soccer Club. It all started in a small house in Kringle where two boys wanted the same colour shirts as their dad. Their dad, Tony Hall, formed the Bayside Soccer League. One of the teams in that was Skye Soccer Club. 20 boys kicking the ball around the Hall backyard was too much, so new training facilities were needed. We approached Mariners College, now John Paul College, and Brother Neff said, "Go for it." Some of the first games were against Seaford, Kringle, Peninsula, Berwick, Mornington, and we had mixed successes, growing stronger and stronger each game, with our presentation being held at Ballum Park at the end of the year. 1979 saw the election of Kevin Finlay as president and the new grounds for Skye Rovers, Skye Reserve, Bellardo Road, with two pitches side by side. It was also decided to have a competition to design a new logo. Adam Parrott won the design, but instead of a soccer ball, an Israeli jet was decided to be included, aiming sky high. A song was also penned to sing at the end of winning games. An A.V. Jennings hut was purchased for use as club rooms through donations through sausage sizzles and collector cans after the games. We fielded three sides in 1979. Tony Hall, Alan Parrott and Mike McGivern were the coaches. Luckily for the club, Mike Storer and Graham Bulk joined. Mike Storer took many photos, as you can see here, and Graham Bulk produced a weekly or monthly newsletter with lots of photos in the middle. New club rooms began building in 1980 and finished in 81. Here is what they look like today. Success continued on the field, and in 1982 we won our first league title. The under-10 Jets, scoring 88 goals with only 4 against. Simon Parrott kicking 51 of the goals. The club grew and grew in numbers. A new pitch was even built for the under-7s and under-8s to play on, in the bottom corner. Results were good. League titles were won. Players were selected for regional teams. Paul Helmore, one player, was selected 3 years in a row. An awesome achievement. It wasn't just the players who did well, the coaches also excelled. Alan Parrott became coach of the Victorian under-13s team. Lou Sabura coached an undefeated under-9s team. Tony Hall continued to coach various levels. Not to mention Harry Chalkitis and Graham Bulk also coaching teams to league titles. A highlight in the 1985 season would have to be the under-13 Jets playing at Olympic Park in the final of the Buffalo Soccer Cup. The club, bursting at its seams, had some of its team play at the old Frankston City ground, McClellan Drive. It was the hope we could take over the ground, but Frankston City squabbling over certain things resulted in us saying no. 1986 saw our dreams come true. A magnificent new complex at Robinson's Road. 2 pitches would be available initially, with another 2 later in the season. Our old green hut was carefully bought from Bellardo Road, and a temporary dressing room in the form of large garage was set up. It was a year of change. The club strip changed to white shirts with blue and green trim, still the same coloured shorts and socks with the iconic white and green trim at the top. The season was to end on a high note. The team you just can't forget, the Jets, won the Victorian Under-14 Cup. And 5 boys represented Victoria. Chris Lacasa, one of our founding members in the Under-13s, and Gavin Samble, Ingerbert Smeedle, Daniel McMenemy and Christian Oikers in the Under-14s, who went on to win their tournament. Perhaps due to 4 pitches now becoming available or the completion of the club rooms, but 1988 will go down as one of the most exciting years in the club's history. Sadly, the Spy family left for Queensland. Saturday, September 17th, was the club's biggest ever. The Junior Soccer Federation honoured our club with a bicentennial Junior Cup final. Clubs from all parts of Victoria competed at our ground for cups at various age groups. Skye's contribution to the finals was, you guessed it, the Jets, drawn against Altona Gate, a team they hadn't beaten in several years. However, after an exciting game going into extra time, we ran out winners, 2-1. 1989 saw the club change its name now to Frankston United. Highlight of the year was the under-16 team winning the league. Coached by Graham Bulk and Laurie Fleming, Graham Bulk had taken this side from under-7s all the way to under-16s. 1990 saw the beginning of a new decade and new floodlights switched on for the start of the season. 1991 season proved to be very wet and cold and windy, and the ground suffered. One highlight was the under-14 squad, Harry Chalkitis' team, winning their league. 1992, another season over, one that seemed to start off like any other, but quickly deteriorated as one by one we lost committee members. In a matter of weeks, we lost a president, a vice president, and our registration secretary, as well as a number of committee members. This, as you can imagine, robbed the club of valuable expertise, and it also meant the remaining members were called on to fill the gaps. As for the season itself, we ran 2 gala days for our sub-juniors. We even got to keep one of the trophies, thanks to Davy Cliff's under-9 blue team. Alan Parrott's under-15 team throughout the year finished runners-up in the Super League, and Derek Moore's under-15s finished 3rd in Eastern A. The one blight on the season was the state of the grounds. Most of the pitches unplayable for half the season, due to Robinson's Park never having drainage laid prior to it being given over to the soccer, and unfortunately due to heavy rains and heavy use in the winter and summer by the softball, the surface began to deteriorate. The local council seemed to lack the funds to repair the ground or put the necessary drainage in. The Softball Association began to assert their presence on the ground, and to many people it felt like soccer was being pushed aside. The diamonds caused much damage to the soccer pitches, and perhaps to crown it all, batting nets were concreted in over several parts of the ground. Unlike the goalposts, they were never removed during the off-season. Soccer virtually had to mark pitches out in consideration of these nets. During the latter part of 1993, Frankston United seniors and juniors began regular talks with their neighbours, Coringal. Both clubs saw a need to develop soccer further on the peninsula. Each club had reached a point in time where a merger was the most sensible idea. A chapter would close in both clubs, and a new one would open. A decision to play senior games at McClellan Drive and all junior teams at Ballon Park was reached. The Lakewood Estate Complex would be left to the softball club and any other sporting organisation who used it during the winter months. 1994 saw the birth of Frankston Strikers. On looking back over the history of Skye Rovers Frankston United, it is with a sense of pride and disappointment. The club has carried itself into history of Victorian soccer. Hundreds of players have learnt to play the world's biggest sport, and yet only approximately 40 or 50 boys went on to play either for the new club or others at senior level. Where did they all go? Many now have families of their own, and hopefully in years to come, their sons, daughters will learn to play as they did all those years ago. On a brighter note, we did have one player, Nick Radecki, who played at under-16 level for the club and represented Australia at under-21 level, the highest distinction by a club player. In years to come, no doubt, Skye Rovers will come up in conversations. Name for the past will come up, and they will be mentioned as the forerunner of one of Victoria's best clubs, Peninsula Strikers. To all the people ever associated with the club, We thank you for your skills on the field, your presence on the committee, your efforts to raise funds, and for just being part of this great club.